What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. So, the reason I'm doing another video today is because last week was UFO Twitter week, and one of the people who was invited to this event is Mr. Matthew Pines, who's been very active over the last couple of months. He had been active over the last few years about the topic, but he's become even more active right now. People keep asking, why is Matthew Pines so important now, or seems like he has so much knowledge? I will tell you why. The Centinel company he works for is a cybersecurity company that deals with people from the IC, the military, and some aerospace companies. So he's basically looking at their secrets constantly, and they trust him with them. That means that he has a privileged access to a wealth of knowledge and information that most of us don't have. So I do think that listening to the stuff he has to say should be important, but I think that he also has more militaristic and financial standpoint of what's going on, because it is his job to predict stuff that may happen based on data points that he compiles through his work, and then he can come up with the potential solutions to problems. So this is how Pines operates. This is the reason he, on that podcast, Mr. Obnoxious, he was talking about China and insinuating that China potentially already has reverse engineered tech. I'm not saying it's not true. It could be completely true, because also during last Sunday's talk with Mr. Peter Lavenda, I specifically asked him about Pines and about Christopher Mellon talking about shooting down UAP, which could potentially be Chinese reverse engineered UAP. Pine seems to align with some of the stuff that Chris Mellon is talking about. And when I was listening to the space, he confirmed that these briefings to people in Congress might very well be possible. And he kind of alluded that they are. He didn't say anything about the so-called object, which I still think it's a rumor, but he did confirm the news that I reported, which is that people are being briefed about James Webb telescope's findings, which I think is a big deal, because it confirms that my source is actually on the money with the core news that I tried to report on, which is that, yeah, people in Congress are already being briefed about some discovery that James Webb already has. This object stuff is part of the confirmation of these briefings. But I've been talking to at least three different sources. One told me about the object, the other one told me about Congress being briefed about either signatures or the object, and another source told me about the rumor of the object over the last 8 years or so. So that's that. I want you guys to listen to what Matthew Pines has to say right here.
James Webb thing. So that I think is very interesting. This is where even Dr. Kirkpatrick, sometimes he says things that I actually agree with, right? And so he was talking at the George Mason event, and I think he also said it in an interview. And he basically was saying is like, if you ask the question like, do aliens exist in the universe? It's like everyone has an opinion. It's like a fully legitimate question to ask. The Fermi paradox. What's the rate of star production? How complicated life can emerge? What are the conditions that would be suitable? The law of large numbers. It's like it's a completely reasonable question. No astrobiologist is like gonna sneer at you. If you ask the question like, is there life in the galaxy? Kind of the same thing. If you ask, is there life that is like proximate to us in sort of our local stellar neighborhood? They go, oh well, now we would have seen it, yada yada. And so the James Webb Space Telescope is sort of situated kind of just in that margin where it's essentially trying to pull the Overton window of like scientific acceptability for asking that question like closer and closer to the Earth. Because if you ask the question like, is there life, on Earth? Advanced non-human intelligence on Earth. That's kind of for the traditional scientific community, kind of sneer worthy. But James Webb is sort of a potential bridge, right? And I think, Dr. Kirkpatrick wasn't talking about James Webb in particular, but he was basically, he enjoined the academic community to basically invert the question. I think he even said that explicitly, like, give me your most advanced, models, serious, rigorous, analysis of what would be the signatures of an advanced intelligence if it was here, so that I can then take those, peer-reviewed, detailed, mathematically derived models of what sorts of possible advanced propulsion systems would generate what detectable signatures. You give me a model, you make a prediction that you should see, say, this, distortion in some local gravity, and I have a gravitometer and I can actually detect that, or you would see some other, infrared, or you say, blue shift or whatever, in the EM spectrum. These are things that would be hypotheses you could derive from a mathematical model if you took it seriously, and you could give it to the intelligence community, and they could say, oh, I have lots of different sensors that can pick up these things, and I could actually test that hypothesis. So he actually, put that out there very explicitly, that he was enjoining the academic community to come to him with those hypotheses, develop those models, give him those potential signatures, and they would look in to see if they could collect that. I don't think that actually happened, but he did say that. And this is just a roundabout way to getting back to the James Webb, because this is, that was an official government representative, charged with this mission of, discerning what's going on here. And he was, enjoining the scientific and academic community, including the folks that are, their whole life mission is essentially to search for life in the universe. And that's why we build these billion-dollar telescopes, and we do these amazing feats of engineering to launch them into space, and many, many, many years and thousands of people trying to pour through the data. And I would just say, like, it's kind of a shame that no one took Kirkpatrick up on his offer. But James Webb, I think, could be an interesting bridge here. I listened to some of the folks in charge of those different sort of research teams, including the ones that are focused on TRAPPIST-1 in particular. So TRAPPIST-1 is an M dwarf sort of planetary system. It's got about 7 planets that we've observed, and it sticks out like a sore thumb in terms of the candidates that could be suitable in terms of terrestrial planets that could have atmospheres. And so it's an intense object of study, because it's plausible. Like the next breakthrough in terms of astrobiology would be able to find a terrestrial planet, essentially an Earth-like, rock-like planet. It's in a stable orbit, it's in a stable system. There's some issues with red dwarf flares, but they could plausibly, using the instruments that are on the infrared detection on James Webb, actually detect atmospheres, and then also importantly characterize the atmospheres. And characterization of exoplanetary atmospheres could potentially reveal both biosignatures as well as technosignatures. Right, biosignatures would be sort of anomalous levels of, say, oxygen or methane. Technosignature would be detection of, say CFCs, right? The things that we ban from refrigerators. These are products only of technological civilization. And so, like, the leaders of these research collaboratives that are having that get hundreds of hours on the James Webb Space Telescope just to zoom in on these particular planets in TRAPPIST-1, this is what they're looking for. Then they've said it explicitly. They're looking for atmospheres, and they want to characterize those atmospheres. And then if they can characterize those atmospheres, they want to see if there's any biosignatures or technosignatures. And so this conversation is very serious, and in the scientific discourse now, is that we have an instrument that is doing observations, and as plausible as observations could generate results that would be an indication of life, even advanced life, on another planetary system. And so that 5-10 years ago would have been kind of a bit of a fantasy, and like the hypothetical if everything works out with James Webb. But now that it's up and running, and they're going into these different cycles of observations, and they're starting to get some of the preliminary data, I think you're seeing a tone and tenor shift in, well, what if we do find a positive detection? What sort of conversation then does that trigger? I know there's been lots in the rumor mill, and folks sort of hearing from somebody who heard from somebody that they actually detected such a signature. I've heard similar rumors. I looked into like where we are in the current phase of observations, and it's plausible that we got what you would consider like a preliminary indication. But being scientists, these folks, especially with such a discovery, would likely want to have 5-6 sigma confidence before they had a published result. And so it's possible that they have what they think is good evidence, but they want to wait. And This might be a bit in the weeds and super nerdy, but like one issue I think that that community is confronted, and the lead author of this kind of roadmap for this sort of specific observations pointed to as a wrinkle in their original plan was the possibility of like stellar contamination. So when they do these observations, they kind of, essentially are trying to use the planet, like the star's light, essentially, as it goes through the atmosphere of the planet they're observing, to essentially use it as to take basically a spectrum of the molecules that are in that atmosphere. And it turns out that their assumptions on exactly how that would work weren't as sound as they thought. And so basically what that means is then you do more different kinds of observations. At least this is what they say. And that means there's going to be it's going to take more cycles, right? It's going to take several hundred more hours of observation to generate sufficiently high confidence, data to screen out that stellar contamination. So I know there's been lots of talk about there has been a detection, and it's plausible that something has been seen, and that sort of starts to filter out. But does that mean that we're going to get like a published paper and announcement anytime soon? I would sort of doubt it. But it could mean, but I think, you don't necessarily even have to believe that to know that if you just take their current roadmap, they're kind of saying that, again, science is not like deterministic, but the next, year, 2 years, 3 years, they could be in a pretty solid position to publish a paper that definitively states the detection of a biosignature and even potentially a technosignature, if that's actually what's in that system. And so, if that's the case, right, like that would be a big deal. that would then be
huge.
Yes. And so that's also where, I think, was it Andre Carson was asked the question, he said no comment, right? Like it's possible that congressmen have given me briefings about this, like, hey guys, just to like give you the heads up, right? Like we're not saying we found anything, but like we're now sufficiently confident in the basic models and our observations that like there's a chance we could. And we just want to like make sure that folks are prepped for that possibility.
Right.
I could see that happening.
So what did that sound like to you? I think that Matthew Pines does have information that he still can't reveal, but he did confirm the rumors are happening, and he did say that Congress people may well be briefed right now. He mentioned specifically the Andrew Carson no comment, and that just like feeds into this whole stuff. Pines seems to know what's going on, so I think people should ask him a little more. But he was very descriptive with everything he said right here. I think this is a very nice put together, very well spoken account of what is happening in Congress right now. And over the next, he said that over the next couple of years, maybe 3 years, we will get something. I think it's going to happen sooner than that, because people like him and others who are like connected to all of this have already alluded to it being true. So let's just hope that the object stuff is not true, that it's a rumor. I think it is. I think it's just a rumor. I think that if James Webb already discovered something, I don't think it's an object, to be honest with you. I do think that it is some kind of techno signature. I do think that, which is already kind of concerning, but we should pay attention to it. And I want to thank Matthew Pines for talking about this so openly and being one of the first people who are like connected to this, who has actually listened to my plea, because it shouldn't be me talking about this. I'm not at the center of any of this. It should be you guys. So thank you, Matt. I hope you can be on the show soon. I'm going to keep trying to send you messages. But yeah, let me know what you think about this. Everything that Matt says is in this clip is very interesting, but I want to know from you. So let me know in the comments. What do you think? And if you like the content you see, please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you can get notified of when a new video drops. I try to bang a few out every week, at least 5 a week. But sometimes I do more. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff to cover. So I want to thank everybody for the support. If you want to support the channel in any other way, you can do it by going to the description. I left a bunch of links there where you can donate, get yourself something, or get something for the podcast on a wish list that I compiled there. You can change the language right there on the page. It's an Amazon wish list. So without further ado, I'll see you guys until the next video. Bye.